Hey guys, I am just waking up right now. I Last night I um played. I'm kind of like in a disposition where you think it's going to be something bad or something. I mean, I played Call of Duty for 3 hours, and then I did a game night for 5.5 hours, where I talked to a bunch of newer friends about. Well, we did game night, but then we also talked about politics and the state of our country, and everyone is just feeling, um, these are people who are ranging from the ages of 27 to 40. Um, and I've been talking on this channel to people younger than that. Almost everyone is younger than that. Um, and we were just having such a great discussion, and I'm so eager to kind of share some thoughts that I was kind of mulling over as I was listening to them. And I'd just like to kind of put them out here is that I feel like the way that we help to change society for the better is the same process in which we try to understand how we ourselves can become better and more present in life. And that if we understand the processes of helping to be more present and empathetic and loving and proactive in our own lives, the same kind of process can be applied to the institutions and society that we live in to help change it for the better as well. Now, one of the things that I kind of was thinking of in that sense is, you know, we all kind of walk through, we live life, and we're dealt a hand of cards, right? I feel like putting labels on it is not helpful, but to give you an idea of it, like you're either born wealthy, middle class, or poor, or like untouchable poor. You are born black or white or Asian. You were uh, born with you're more predisposed to either becoming gay or being gay or having an interest in many different people. Like they're all a whole different set of cards that you can be dealt. Um, Society and social pressures can change those things and shift them, but you were born with certain things that you start off. As time and what those cards do though is they help us identify with ourselves and build a story about ourselves. And they also, in that same way, provide blind spots for how we see the world. So, like as a guy, I am way less likely to understand off the bat without communicating with people. I'm way less likely to understand that as a woman, I'm fearful for walking down the street because I can get catcalled, because um, I can actually get like physically overwhelmed by men, and that there is fear there. That these things, the different cards we have, there are assets, but they're also our blind spots, right? And as we walk through life and communicate and listen more, we can understand and see other people's blind spots. We may not be able to completely feel it because we are not in their bodies, but if we listen deeply enough, then we can see their perspective and put it into our own minds and then walk through life with those things in mind. There's no way to completely become another person, um, but we can be more mindful and more empathetic and understanding of other people's positions. Now, as we kind of learn about our blind spots, we become more mature, understanding, and loving human beings, I think, right? and we become more calm, we become more understanding of ourselves and what is ourself, right? This book, Eckhart Tolle, is all about I, identification, right? Like that I am a white actor who's pretty much straight. I guess I am. I in like I'm attracted to a guy every once in a while, but I mean, like I have these identifications, right? I have white skin, so I have to have this kind of experience. Um, and and I think that identifying those things keep us. It builds stories in our head about ourselves, and when we build stories about ourselves in our head, then it disconnects us from the present, from being. It kind of builds a like we build inner judgment with those titles, with those identifications, and to be able to become as empathetic and loving and listening as possible, I think Eckhart Tolle and I um, agree that it disconnects us from being completely present with others and to listen and to be as empathetic as we can be. Now, I think finding presence and living life, being here now, um, and being open to others' worldview is the way to bring in the most diversity possible into ourselves, to bring the most thoughts and ideas into our thoughts and our heads, and we shouldn't judge ourselves for thinking different things. For certain thoughts, we shouldn't judge ourselves for that because those thoughts are coming into our heads without us controlling them. That's like just because you're thinking certain thoughts doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Um, and that's another thing too, that identification of like good or bad, good or evil. Those identifications are detrimental to actually thinking about different issues, um, and blind us from that we force ourselves from not thinking certain things because they are societally viewed as good or evil. um, and um, and so to take this now, so that's like about becoming more present with yourself and understanding us on an individual level. I think take it out to now a societal institutional level. We need to be able to create. We already have the things that are necessary. I think, at least in America, we need to be able to understand our institutional mechanisms for enacting change, and we need to have that belief that things can change for things to change in our society. So, for instance, people are saying, like, oh my gosh, like, if we want a lot of things to change, on like healthcare or on uh, taxes, like, things are not going to be changing because, it just takes forever to do that. That's absolutely not true. If you look back at FDR's time, um, when he was elected in, I think, 1933, 1932. I think it was 1933. He was elected in 1932, I think. Was inaugurated in 1933, sworn in. He changed a ton of shit in the first 100 days. The institutional mechanisms are there to shift things. Um, what I'm advocating are two major shifts. First, we need to pass the American Anti-Corruption Act, which will get this two-party system that is creating a culture of of electing the lesser of two evils. It will weaken it. It'll start to dissolve that party, that those major institutions. And what's tough is that we both kind of we all kind of identify as one or the other, or at least a lot of people do. Even though there are a lot of registered independents, I think over 40% of registered voters are independents. They Independents still feel trapped and still feel the need to vote for one or the other party for the majority of the time. That's half of America. The other half of America isn't voting at all. they don't feel like things can change. So half of Americans are stuck in voting the lesser of two evils. The other half is just so tired and has lost belief that things can change. We can address both of these issues. First, we need to just get rid of the two-party system. We need to start pushing legislation. I mean, to be fair, none of the elected officials, not even my good old Bernie Sanders, has talked about the American Anti-Corruption Act, has talked about weakening the strength of these institutions, because I think Bernie's intention is like he wants to get things, he wants to change things now. Like if things are going to change on a, like that his support, he, I don't think that he trusted that he could be that third party candidate that could really shift things. And right now I don't, you know, maybe in 10 years, 5 or 10 years, the sentiment in America will change to support third parties a little more, or at least view third parties as legitimate candidates. But I think he may be right. You know, he's just trying to shift the dialogue and get people who are in trouble help now. But anyway, we need to start dissolving the two-party system. We need to start actually doing that by passing ranked choice voting, which is already recently passed in New York. Um, what's important about ranked choice voting is it's great that it's passed, but people need to believe that other parties can actually gain a foothold in the conversation so that people will even vote for them. If people are like, oh no, you know what, like I'm not voting Working Families Party because they're, you know, they're going to get like 20 votes, and you know, I'm just going to vote for AOC, or I'm just going to vote for, you know, my Democratic or Republican representative already because they're going to get the most votes anyway. Like that's exactly what we can't do. We have to stick to what we know in our hearts, what we've experienced, and use that as our political voice to vote. We need to do the research. We need to go to the polls and vote for the people that we like. Um, it can't be, we cannot be equivocating. We can't be compromising our political voices, because once we've already compromised so much, this is what happens when we constantly compromise, is that we get a lesser of two evils. So we have to be strong about the things that we believe. So ranked choice voting we need to pass. We need to figure out our gerrymandering situation. I mean, basically look up the American Anti-Corruption Act and represent.us, because that is the way to shift things, you know. So there's that. Um, we also, so we first we need to pass that stuff. Then we need to look at what has been the contributing factor throughout human history as to the way things have been run, and how can we improve them, right? And at least for me, there are two things that come to mind. One is the idea of education, which we've talked about a lot on this channel. Yeah, I kind of feel bad that I'm rambling, but I also think that this is really important. And yeah, so I just want to get my thoughts on here for myself, and also for, you know, anyone that's kind of feeling tired and hopeless. There is hope, you know. So the two things that I think we need to work on, if I were president, is we need to pass the American Anti-Corruption Act. We need to get lobbying, like we need to figure out lobbying. We need to figure out, you know, two-party system. We need to weaken it. We need to, you know, end gerrymandering and give those responsibilities up to third parties that kind of figure out zoning. Then after that, we need to look at revamping education to not be something that focuses on standardized tests and rote memorization. We need to talk about education as a way to help people understand emotional intelligence, communication. We need to be, and the more technical things. I mean, I think math is important, of course. It depends what you're interested in. It really, like, education should be tailored to the individual, and it's very difficult to do that in terms of resources. I understand, but we're also spending $700 billion on military, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the unions, the unions that are kind of in the education system are bloated and full of bureaucratic BS that actually aren't supporting teachers. If the unions were an actual thing, they would be fighting against standardized testing as a measure of learning, and so I think what we need to do is we need to shift our paradigm from standardized testing and rote memorization and understanding dates to emotional intelligence, empathy, understanding our history, um, like Howard Zinn's The People's History of America. We need to actually be teaching classes like woodworking, um, taxes, cooking, woodworking. I think I already said woodworking, like things that like electricians do or plumbers do, like understanding how to like build a house. Like it should be like a senior project to actually build a house together. Like learning how to build a fire, like literally those practical skills and social skills. Those are things like social media. We should be teaching rhetoric. We should be teaching public speaking in every class. Like these things are terrifying, but they're also needed and necessary to grow as people. Um, I would teach, I mean, if I were a teacher, I would teach learning how to access your creative self, you know, um, a creativity coach. That's something that I would really want to do. So we need to focus on shifting education and redefining the paradigm of education. Um, and what was the other thing that I was thinking that we need to work on? Um, oh my gosh, this is why I'm talking about this, is because I knew I would forget it. Um, educational mechanisms and education reform. Oh, and we need to look at throughout human history, the societies have kind of bowed down to psychopathic behavior as the way to succeed. If you look today, I think there was a book by John Ronson called The Psychopath Test. Um, he looks at how psychopathic that capitalism. I mean, I will. It's not just capitalism because you look at like Sumeria, you look at Egypt. I mean, you look at. I mean, but I mean, I'll just say that I guess maybe since capitalism became a thing, that capitalism has supported psychopathic behavior. Um, and it's not, I mean, socialism and communism is also communism, fascism has supported, have been models of societal thinking and rule that have supported um, psychopathic behavior. You look at Hitler, you look at Stalin, you look at Mussolini, you look at, I mean, Trump right now. Um, in my opinion, like the but not only that, you look at, so that's governmental, but then you look at like the way the businesses are run. I mean, like John Ronson did this study that shows that psychopaths really do run major corporations because they're willing to do anything to achieve power. They work on all cylinders and the system supports it. So how can we figure out a way as a society, as a collective, now that we this blind spot has been revealed, that we can shift our institutions to be able to support other points of view other than just psychopaths. Um, that's what government should be. I think that naturally corporations and businesses are going to be run by psychopaths because there's there is in a way the attributes, the cards that people have been given that are psychopaths, like could be more motivated, could be more they're just more productive and efficient and savvy enough to be able to create those empires. And so maybe that is that's their purpose, is to create. And like psychopaths, I mean there are a lot of negatives, of course, but also like I don't want to, you know, psychopaths are not all evil. Like they're innovators, they're entrepreneurs, they create stuff, right? But if the government is also run by them, then that is a complete shift of like all of our resources and our checks and balances, right? Like to be able to check the psychopaths, to be able to check the entrepreneurs, we need to have the government be people who are not that. The government needs to be people who are empathetic, are empaths. The way that psychopathic behavior and that the want for money and power and success need to be challenged is by empaths. So how do we start getting empaths into government to be able to check that psychopathic behavior? And also, I want to point out that I mean these are half baked ideas as well. Like I don't want to say like I think psychopathic. Okay, who's calling me right now? It's like so early. Um, I don't want to say that there is an immediate negative connotation to psychopaths. I think, of course, right? But I want to be clear that I don't have the language to use for those people who are like who are really productive and are great business people. I don't want to just say psychopaths are across the board evil people, because they're human beings. Um, they have a place. They have a purpose. And I think that's the tricky thing, is like figuring out what each person's purpose is and how we can be respectful, tolerant, and loving and empathetic towards them and what they're bringing to society, because they're definitely bringing things that are positives to society, but they're also bringing some things that maybe too many things that are helping them, and not enough things. They're not open enough to bring things to other people to help them, to help society as a whole. Anyway, so this has just kind of been like a splurge of thought. Um, and so thank you. And hopefully, maybe some of these things will resonate. I'm very hopeful for this world, very hopeful for us. I think that we just need to listen. We need to be open minded. We need to think differently, and don't get caught in the echo chamber of binaries of conservative, Democrat, black and white, um, conservative and liberal, Republican, Democrat. Like, don't. That is the lesser of two evils. That is not you. And the more we kind of have that consume our mind, um, the less likely we will be to believe that change will be possible. And if there's anything we know from Buddhism, it's that everything changes. Everyone is mortal. Every institution is fallible, and that we need to allow ourselves to develop institutions that evolve with the times and with the people who are living. And the founding fathers created this country, this constitution, to shut down when there was major polarization. And right now we're shutting down, and it's time to walk into a new era where belief is at the core, and that we regain trust with each other and for the people guiding us and leading us. Now is the time to do that. Do not give up hope. Okay. I love all of you. Happy Sunday. And I'll be doing some videos today. Bye bye.